Alright, shalom, privyet, and salut tout le monde, and welcome. Welcome to our final word for the Garden of Gethsemane, Mark 14, 48-52, exposing the neo-pagan lie that Christ was a child trafficking, sex trafficking, I don't know, some sexual degenerate. What it is, it's really the pagans projecting their religion on Christianity. Remember, all these spiritual nomads, what they're doing is they're trying to say that Christ is a copy of the Greek myths, when he's really like a polemic. He's really like exposing. The Bible is in total opposition to paganism. It's not a copy of paganism. It is the enemy of paganism, right? And what the pagans are trying to do is they're trying to project their degenerate gods onto Christ, okay? And we're going to see that very clearly in this video, okay? This is actually going to be the most disgusting video of all of them, and I really have to. I'm going to apologize several times for the content that's in this video. So we're going to go over the third word, the final word. We're going to there's actually going to be four. We're going to have to go over actually a couple words, but really two main ones in this video, and because the slander is just so unreal coming out of the pagan camp that we have to give an answer, because you guys are going to be coming across this stuff, and this needs to be thoroughly debunked. All right. So again, the lie has gone halfway around the world, so it's time for the truth to put on its shoes. All right, so we're going to go over the word SINDON. And spoiler alert, it only means linen. It doesn't mean anything else. No matter what this Greek PhD and what the neo-pagans tell you, it just means a material. It could be bandages, it could be I don't know, it could be sails on a ship, it could be a curtain, it could be anything, okay? But if it's just left alone, if there's no context to go with the word, then it just means linen. That's it, spoiler alert. Okay, so we're going to look at the mental illness coming out of the pagan camp. And what do we see here? So let's just go back to Mark. We've already gone over the word lestes, and we've exposed that one. It does not mean a child trafficker. It means a rebel, a bandit. It could be a pirate. It's really an insurrectionist. Like, thieves are not crucified. If you're a klepto, a thief in Greece, you're not crucified. That's not what crucifixion was for. Crucifixion was for people who rebelled against the state. It was for insurrectionists. It was for the highest form of treason. Okay? So these are not thieves that are being crucified with Christ. They're insurrectionists. They're rebels. And for some reason, the Bible translators just did a terrible job when they were translating the Bible. Okay? So ancient Greeks did not view this word as a thief. And so let's go over this again. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Are you come out as against a leste, not a thief, a insurrectionist, a terrorist, a rebel, with swords and with staffs to take me? I was daily with you in the temple teaching, and you took me not. But the scriptures must be fulfilled. And they all forsook him and fled. Okay, so now Jesus is like everyone's kind of fleeing, but there was a young man, right? And there followed him a certain neo-pagan, not a little boy. We went over this in the last video. In the last video, what did we learn? We learned that a neo-pagan is a young man in his prime, 18 to 30 years old. It's not a little boy. It's really the last guy you want to mess with. So the pagans and the Greek scholars have taken a word that literally means this is the last guy, right, you're probably going to want to mess with. That's the age group they are accusing of being a little boy being molested by Jesus. A neo-pagan is the ideal soldier, the ideal athlete. Guess what? After 30 years old, it becomes difficult to join the army. Did you know that? Do you know the army's not really interested in a 30-year-old man? You might be able to join the reserves, or you might be able, there might be some exceptions, but they don't really want you at 30 years old. They want you at 18. Athletes too, you know? So it's mind-blowing that these pagans and these Greek scholars have taken such literally turned this Greek word on its head, turned it completely upside down to try to make Jesus look like he's trafficking little children here. But really, we now know that it's a man in his prime. This is the last guy you want to go mess with, a guy between 18 and 30 years old. Do you know? Unless he's like some skilled boxer who's like, or fighter that's been fighting his whole life and he's now pushing 40 or something. But for the most part, you know, you don't prey on 18 to 30-year-olds. That's what the word means. So, and there followed him a certain Neoniskos, a military aged man, having a SINDON, a linen cloth, cast about his naked body, his gumnos, we're going to go over that word, and the young men, the Neoniskoi, laid hold on him, and he left the SINDON, the linen cloth, and fled from them gumnos. He fled from them naked. And then they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests and the elders and scribes. And again, guys, if Christ was running a child trafficking homosexual drug ring, Christ would be put to death by the priests. He would be stoned to death. He would not be crucified. If Christ was doing those things, the high priest, the scribes, the Pharisees would be able to say, you know what? This guy's breaking the Torah. He's breaking the law. We don't need the Romans. He doesn't need to be crucified. Crucifixion is a Roman way to die. It's a Western, actually, it started in Persia, believe it or not. But the Greeks adopted it, then the Romans adopted it. And it was reserved for insurrectionists against the Roman state. If Christ was a homosexual, he would have been put to death by stoning. If he was a sorcerer, someone dabbling in pharmakia, a drug dealer, he would have been put to death. He would have been stoned to death. Guys, he's crucified. That tells you he was charged with insurrection. He was charged with rebellion. It's that simple. If anything, I can't even believe I have to make this video. So, anyways, here we've got our word SINDON in red. This is the one we're going to be going over. Let's rip this all apart. Okay, so, before we get into this, before we get into Herodotus, we're going to go to the horse's mouth. We're going to go right to the pagans. We're going to go right to the Greek scholars, the geniuses behind this myth. Let's go listen to what they say, and then we're going to come back and rip it all apart. All right, so now guys, I'm apologizing. This man is so disgusting. The pagans are so disgusting. I have to apologize ahead of time. And what they're doing, again, is, and we're going to see this, they're projecting their pagan religion onto us, when our religion is anti-pagan. Everything about our law system, the way we behave ourselves, everything about us as Christians, as Bible believers, is anti-pagan. And their myth visions, they're the Gnostic informants. They're the ones saying, oh, the Bible's just a copy of the Greeks, and they just stole from the Greeks, and forget all the Bronze Age history that the Bible has. You see, the Bible records things that no ancient Greek knew about the Bronze Age. Go look for Greek records, Greco-Roman records on the Amorites. Go look for Greco-Roman records on the Hittite kingdom. Zero. The Greeks were retarded when it came to ancient history. The Greeks only had their insane myths, Homer, Troy, all this stuff. The Greeks never wrote about the Hittites. The Greeks never wrote about the Amorites or the Elamites that we now know were the ruling kingdoms in the world during the time of the Bronze Age when the Bible was being written. So if the Jews were just fabricating some story using Greek sources, The Jews were geniuses. Like, the Jews must have been time travelers because they recorded such accurate Bronze Age history that no Greek, no Babylonian left in their records. So they're written records during the time of the Hellenistic era. So that's another topic. We're going to talk about that another time. Okay, so these myth vision types are trying to say the Bible's just a copy of the Greeks. No, the Bible is anti-Greek. We're anti-Roman. We're anti-pagan. We're anti-Babylonian. We're anti-Egyptian. We don't believe in their nonsense. Got it? And they're trying to say, project their insane beliefs onto us. Okay? So, let's listen to the psychopaths themselves. And I apologize. I'm so sorry, guys. Bear with me.
Double click. There you go. Now hit the green button.
Up. Look, this is what the kid has wrapped on his gumnos. And you say, what's gumnos? Gumnos
Fine
is...
cloth, usually linen.
Yeah, fine cloth. Look where it's, look at the second line. It says busines telemones, right? So they're wrapping things in.
I just want to say something. Sorry. This word, what he just did there, this busines telemones, those words are not in Mark 14. What the guy's doing is he's quoting two Greek words that will now change the context. Remember, if I were to say to you, we went over in one of the last videos, where are the seals? Where are the seals, guys? You don't know what I'm talking about. Am I talking about the seals at SeaWorld? Am I talking about the seals on the court documents? Am I talking about the Navy SEALs in Afghanistan? Where are the seals? It's not until I add words to the word seal, add words to the word SINDON, okay? Like he just did here, busine telemones. Now the word SINDON changes completely. You're not thinking of what it means without those words. It's like, where are the seals? Guys, where are the seals at SeaWorld? Are they in their tanks? Where are the seals on the document? Why haven't you sealed the documents? Get me the court seals. Where are the Navy SEALs? Just by adding that word Navy to seals, I've changed the word completely. And these two words, busine telemones, are not in Mark. And that's the trick this guy is doing. He's inventing things that are not there while calling himself some great Greek scholar. And we're going to let this poor man destroy himself, destroy his degree. And I just want to use this man as an example. Do not be scared of men with PhDs. This guy has everything to lose. We have nothing to lose. And again, what it's going to come down to is really the heart. Your heart. Where is your heart at? It doesn't matter if you have a PhD. If you're a liar, it's going to come out. You could be a guy with... I'm not saying don't get a PhD. Don't go to school. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you don't need to. Not if you love a subject. You're passionate about a subject. You're just going to study it. Okay? The greatest teachers in the world, they don't teach a subject. That's not a good teacher. A good teacher makes you want to go and study on your own. You don't need me as your teacher. My job is to spark an interest in you so that you leave me and go and study on your own. Just be honest in your research. Be honest when you study. This man is the opposite of that. So everything's really a double-edged sword. You know, a gun can be used to hurt. It can be used to kill. A PhD could be used to do good, and it could be used to do a lot of evil. Remember, the people who run our world today, the majority of them all have PhDs. Do you think they're doing a good job? Do you think Jesus chose fishermen? He chose tax collectors. He chose a zealot. He chose the most random people. Only Paul would have been the guy with a PhD because Jesus needed a guy who can go toe-to-toe with the Pharisees, go toe-to-toe with the Greek priests, the priests of Apollo, and go against all that stuff. Go against all the philosophers, the Stoics, the Epicurean, all the people of that time. That's why Paul was chosen. There was no one better chosen for the mission than Paul. Okay, a guy who could destroy the Greeks and the Jews at the same time. So anyways, notice what he did there. He added 2 words to the text that weren't there. Okay, long rant. Sorry, let's keep going.
This
Used for
fine
mummies.
cloth, right?
And surgeons' bandages.
And bandages, and that's where I get it. On my end, when I'm reading the medical authors, they're all saying that you impregnate linen with drugs that you're going to treat the wound with, right? This kind of makes sense.
You impregnate women.
No, linen, I'm sorry.
You impregnate linen.
Don't impregnate the women.
With drugs.
Yeah.
To treat wounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't that make sense?
This is the original text, and this right here is the translation that we have right now, which is, I'll punch it up for people, nothing but a linen garment.
Yeah, notice how they took it from a bandage and turned it into
Who did this? Who's responsible for this?
crappy translators. People who do not work with the Greek. If you bring up the next one,
Is this an accident or is this intentional?
no,
these
it's
translations.
Intentional stupidity.
Are they intentionally leaving this shit out of the Bible? Because
No, it's bad training.
oh, okay.
It's just bad training.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so as you can see, the word bousines and telemones are not, they're not here. The only word here is SINDON. So let's stop it here just for a second. Let's just cover Herodotus because that's what he's quoting. He's quoting Herodotus. That's what he was pointing at. And here we've got the text posted up. And here we could see the word SINDON, okay, bousines, and then we have the word telemosi, okay. This is just to mean with strips, with bandages, with. It's just the declension. It's just the case. I think it's the dative case. Excuse me. All right. So let's go through this. So in this context, we have the context. There's a body being mummified. And we have 3 words here. SINDON, telemones, and we have bousines. Great. These 3 words now are going to change the context completely. Those 2 words added with SINDON, okay? The word bousines, fine. Telemones, okay? Or in this, telemosi, with, strips. With strips of fine linen. That's it. With strips of fine linen. Why are they strips of fine linen? Because they're mummifying a body with a glue. There's no narcotics here. There's no drugs here. Nothing like that. All that's happening in this story, they wash the body and wrap the whole of it in what? In bandages, telemones, of fine bousines, linen cloth, anointed with gum. Those 2 words are not in the mark. So you cannot use Herodotus here and apply 2 words that don't exist in Mark to Mark. Okay? Do you understand? Do you understand what they're doing? Great. So Hillman claims SINDON means medicated bandage and cites medical texts to prove it. Okay? Now we're going to go over this more in another video. Like another clip I'm going to play soon. So the mummy proof, Herodotus 286. Herodotus uses SINDON to describe mummy wrappings. However, he has to add the word telemones strips to make it mean bandage. SINDON alone just means linen. Furthermore, Herodotus says the linen is dipped in komi, industrial gum or glue, to seal the corpse. If SINDON inherently meant medicated bandage, the other words would be redundant. You don't need, if SINDON meant what he said, you don't need to add bousines and telemones. Furthermore, the drug used, komi, is just a glue to seal bandages on corpse. So in this context, okay, that's why the guy just quotes stuff. He doesn't, you're going to see just how insane this guy is. And we're going to keep going with this because this is just, for me, it's kind of, it's very interesting actually. So let's let him finish. Sorry guys, let's let him go.
There we go. Now watch this one. Okay, so that last one had businos on it. Well, what is the businos? It's fine linen bandage, right? They give you at the top. But then look at the reference on the second line. That's Euripides Bacchae. Okay, so this is something that they're using within some kind of religious ritual. And look at number 2 at the bottom. Roman numeral number 2, Porphyros. That's Hesychius. And who's Hesychius? Hesychius is a lexicographer from the 4th and
Oh man. So now it's just gonna get even more embarrassing and even more. It's just embarrassing. I feel really bad for the guy. Oh, here's the source for the Herodotus one. Sorry guys, I'm always gonna try to put up my sources, and you can see we've got the word bandage, telemosi, we've got fine business, and we've got linen cloth, SINDON, which that's the word we're focusing on. Now, this is really embarrassing. So he referenced Euripides Bacchae. Now, guys, my advice to you is whenever someone makes a claim, like me, if I make a claim, guys, the reason I'm posting all my sources is because I'm going to try to source the heck out of my stuff before I present it to you. Okay, it will decrease, the odds that I'm going to look stupid on the internet. So I'm going to try my best to research everything as best as I can before I come here. Now, this guy did not research anything. And that's what's crazy is he actually clicked on that link. If you saw, he said, look at Euripides Bacchae. So they're using it for some weird sexual drug ritual. And you could see he clicked on it. My question is, did the guy bother to read the source he clicked on? Because just all you have to do to destroy this Greek PhD, this guy who knows ancient Greek and apparently knows all the Greek sources and all you have to do is click on that source that he showed you and read it yourself. So we're going to look at this story. Now, he very specifically said, you see, it's being used for some weird sex ritual. Look, it's in Euripides Bacchae. There's something with drugs here, some ritual. Okay. Euripides Bacchae. Now, number one, Bacchae. If you guys don't know, this is a story about the god Dionysus. And another way to call Dionysus is Bacchus. Bacchus is how the Romans called him. But why is it Euripides has called his play? So Euripides is a playwright. He probably was born, he was after Aeschylus, after Sophocles, probably in the 350s is probably either when he like in the 350s to something BC. Like he would have been after Aeschylus, after Sophocles, and I think then it's Euripides. So Euripides calls his story Bacchae. Now Bacchae in Greek means the shouters, or maybe the screamers, or like maybe shouters is probably the best way to word it. And it's to do with women, the Maenads or the Bacchae. Okay? And Bacchus and Dionysus are generally gods connected with degeneracy because they're the gods of the vine. And a lot of their rituals, their pagan rituals, are to do with carrying giant phalluses. So women would carry a giant penis, and march through the streets, kind of like what you see at Gay Pride. Or what I saw a lot in Canada was when girls were getting married. I used to live in Montreal, and Montreal is just a degenerate cesspool. And you would and girls that were getting married would, like every Saturday and Friday night, you would see at least maybe one or two girls running around the street carrying just degenerate phallic symbols because they're about to get married. And I guess they figured that acting degenerate on their honeymoon or their whatever. So girls still do this in a way. But the pagan ritual was they'd carry a phallic symbol, a giant penis, and march through the streets with it. The penis symbolizing seeds and and that's it, fertility and growth and whatever. And it existed everywhere. The maypole, this is a thing people still do. Young girls will dance around the maypole. It's a giant penis, it's a giant phallic symbol, and the girls are dancing around it. The Greeks would do so a lot, and it's to do with wine and drinking and partying. So Dionysus is a very degenerate god. And in Rome, he's called Bacchus. But what's funny is I don't think our Dr. Hillman, Greek specialist, actually ever read Euripides' Bacchae. Because in this story, there are no sex and drugs. That's what makes Euripides so funny. That's what makes this story so funny. As we can read here, Dionysus, the god Dionysus, who is also Bacchus, it's a Greek word, Bacchae. It means the shouters. The women, the maenads, the women who would go into the forest alone, just women, to worship Dionysus, they're known as the Bacchae, or the maenads, the shouters, the screamers. They would dance and party all night. But in this story, you see, the king is the one, King Pentus here. He's the one convinced that the girls, the women, are out in the forest, drunk, high, and having orgies, right? And they're out there to worship Dionysus, right? So Dionysus, this trickster god, tricks King Pentos and says to him, then dress yourself in long, what does it say? Bousines, okay? So, and then it says peplus. Bousines peplus. It's very specifically a woman's dress. So he points at Euripides' Bacchae. The word SINDON is nowhere to be found, guys. So he's taking two other completely different Greek words that have nothing to do with Mark 14. He goes, you see, they're using two different Greek words that have nothing to do with the Greek word we're talking about in this story with the Bacchae, and it's to do with some drug ritual. Did you bother to read Euripides' Bacchae? Because the irony in this story is Dionysus convinces Pentos to dress like a woman. So Pentos replies, okay? So he says, Dionysus says, then dress yourself in a long linen robe, not a sindon. This is very specifically an outer garment, a beautiful garment, and it's translated as a dress, a woman's dress, a linen robe, okay? Why is that? Shall I become a woman instead of a man? So what Dionysus is doing is he's tricking King Pentos, exposing his true nature. That's what makes this so funny. Pentos is now going to go in drag, sneak into the forest, and be like a creepy voyeur, spying on these girls, hoping to see some girl action. Because he's convinced they're going... And guess what? The women are just resting, they're sleeping, and they're drinking milk, I think. Milk, yeah. There's no sex, there's no drugs, there's no milk in this story. Everyone thinks that's what they're doing because it's Dionysus, the god. You'd think that's what makes Euripides' story so funny. The Bacchae is the women were actually they were just using this time in the forest to relax, and they were drinking milk, and that's what makes the story so funny. And King Pentos, now Dionysus has the king in drag, being a creep, spying on the women who are doing nothing crazy. He then causes a hallucination on the women, and the women mistake him as I think it's a wild bear. Is it a bear? A wild animal, a wild beast, something that you'd find. Maybe it's a boar, a wild animal. And the women end up tearing him apart, killing him, believing that it's his own mother. His own mother is there. King Pentos' mother is there. And I think she is the one who rips off his head, hallucinating that they're actually killing a wild animal. I just forgot which animal it was. The point of this story is it has nothing to do with sex and drugs like you would associate with Dionysus. That's actually what makes this story so funny. So pointing at Euripides' Bacchae, it's got to be something to do with, there's no sex and drugs in this story. Okay. So, and the word SINDON's not even here, right? So Hillman's claim that Euripides' Bacchae proves linen, the Bisos, is a ritual drug object. It collapses upon reading the actual text. He cites the play to argue that linen was used for a secret drug cult, but the scene in question, line 821 to 822, simply depicts Dionysius, the trickster god, convincing King Pentus to wear a linen dress, a businus peplus, okay, to disguise himself as a woman so he can spy on the Maenads, the Bacchae, safely. Pentus immediately confirms the context by asking, shall he become a woman instead of a man? Hillman likely saw a dictionary citation, Bisos, to Euripides and invented a medicated bandage narrative without checking the source, effectively confusing a cross-dressing spy mission with a mystic drug ritual. The text explicitly describes a drag costume, not a medicated device. Guys, PhD in ancient Greek. This is the pagan source for the drug ritual. So, guys, just read it yourself, and you're gonna see that the irony of this story is it has nothing to do with drugs. It was all in the king's crazy imagination, but in reality, worshiping Bacchus and Dionysus is very degenerate. Okay, in Rome, they had something called the Bacchanalia. And the Bacchanalia, I think it was in it was 187 BC. In 187 BC, roughly, the Bacchae the Bacchanalia was outlawed. The Romans had to outlaw it because it was exactly like what we're seeing right now with Epstein, Bohemian Grove, all our elites, with all these sex parties, homosexuality, transgenderism, human sacrifice, child sacrifice, rape, torture. That's what happened in ancient Rome with the Bacchanalia. So the Romans, so this is the same god Dionysus, all that stuff. And so the Bacchanalia got so bad, and it's very much to do with women. Men were eventually allowed to come and participate, but it's really focused around the women, and it's really frightening because where we look at our society today, and our women are really, really sick. But as much as I like to blame women for everything, it all comes down to the men. Okay? It comes down to us as men. Women often are the reflection of a man in a society. Women will generally only behave in certain ways to reflect the men in that society. And so the only freedom women have in society, guys, let's be real here, is the freedom we as men give them. We're the simps. We're the ones allowing them to behave like this. Like, guys, we're the city builders. We're the empire builders. We're the electricians and the mechanics, and we build the plumbing, and without us, their little world collapses, you know? And we built the prosperity. And I would say the same thing here in the Bacchanalia. The women are the evilest, most degenerate creatures, but I blame the men for spawning them. I blame us failing as men that then created such evil, wicked creatures that we call women. Okay, so where I can say the women are the evilest, the most evil, especially when you look at the Bacchanalia, my blame is actually on the men. That is a symptom of men failing to be men. And us also failing to have each other's back as men, okay? Which this is actually another topic, but so that's the Bacchanalia. So the Bacchanalia got so bad, they were recruiting only young people. Guys, pretty much if you got invited to the Bacchanalia, it would be like being invited to, you know, Epstein's Island or the Bohemian Grove or to some elite party. Like in Eyes Wide Shut, the Stanley Kubrick film, that's a frightening movie. You know, I'm pretty sure he was murdered for making that movie. They cut out like almost an hour of it, so we don't even know what the real story was about. But you know it's about pedophilia and the elites and human sacrifice. And so you would get invited to these parties, and then there would be a sacrifice. And then they would generally also, they would resort to also cannibalism, eating the people. And so if you said, I don't want to participate in the gay orgies, I don't want to participate in this stuff, I don't want to kill anybody, what you actually are doing is you just signed up to be a sacrifice. If you're not willing to kill and eat the bodies and rape the children and rape the people, you are now in line to be sacrificed. They know you can't be part of the club. You need to get your hands dirty. So everything our elites are doing right now are focused on ancient paganism. It's focused on the worship of Dionysus, Bacchus, and the Bacchanalia, which the Romans eventually, imagine that, the Romans had to eventually outlaw their own god for being so wicked and degenerate. Think about that. Think about that. All right? So, sources, go read it. Story has nothing to do with drugs. It's very much the opposite. Dionysus tricks the king. That's what makes this so funny, because everyone thought for sure they're having orgies. It's Dionysus. Sure, they're going to be drunk. No. So the joke's on him. My advice to the Greek scholar is go study ancient Greek. So now we're going to talk about the other word he's going to mention, gumnos. And now I really have to apologize for playing this video. This is so disgusting. I'm so sorry, but you guys have to actually listen to this Greek scholar.
And it says the kid dropped the bandage and ran off naked. That's exactly what that says. The kid dropped the bandage and ran off naked.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it says specifically in 51 that it was epigumnos. And epigumnos is on his private parts.
An epigumno, which is the bandage that's soaked in drugs.
The SINDON that's on there, right? And why? Why is Jesus with the kid? Remember when he first walks in the garden, he falls over, he stumbles over, and he's in pain. He's going through the exact same symptoms that doctors will describe.
Jesus is?
Of the drug users. Yeah, it's in this chapter. It's in Mark 14. Yeah.
So he's tripping.
It says that he's exceptionally fearful, right? So it looks like he's in some kind of psychotic fear, and he's screaming about, "Take it, don't let me do it." And he's with his kid. He's with this kid at the time, right? And he ends up with stuff on his face, stuff that is like big drops of porphyrin.
I'm talking about bodily fluids.
Blood is how it's typically, no, that's how it's translated. It's not the blood that he's got, it's purple. And he's got an antidote from the kid's. That's the galene, is the kid's seed. Heracles has to have Hylas. He has to have his boy. Zeus has to have Ganymede.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry you had to listen to that. But as you can see, the pagans are projecting their religion onto us. Hercules must have Hylas, his boy lover, pedophilia, homosexuality. Zeus must have his Ganymede. Again, the Greeks portraying their homosexual, pedophile gods, no different than the Epstein Island. Guys, understand that all the pagans they're liberals, and to be a pagan is to just be an elite. Why do you think the Jews push neo-paganism? It's because everything the elites are, everything you're seeing our world as it becomes, is just neo-paganism. Okay? And what they're doing is they're projecting their Greek myths. What does Zeus have to do? What does Zeus have to do with Jesus? Do you know how many words this guy had to add? Let's look at how insane everything this guy just said was. And we're going to start with the word gumnos. Okay, so now, And Jesus answered and said unto them, okay, so now we're back here with the whole Leste stuff, okay? And now we're going to have this guy, okay? And then there followed him a certain young man, Ananiskos, a man of military age, having a linen cloth cast about his gumnos, his naked body. And the young men, the other Ananiskos, the captains of the guard, the other military age men, laid hold of him, and he left the linen cloth, okay, and fled from them gumnos. He fled from them naked. And then they led Jesus to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes. So again, if Christ was guilty of homosexuality, pedophilia, and drugs, the high priests would not need to crucify him. They could just stone him to death, right? It's right there. That's Jewish law. But for some reason, they're not going to... They want to kill Jesus, but you see... So what he's actually doing, what they're very much doing, again, they're projecting their religion onto Christianity, onto us, okay? By, Zeus needs Ganymede. There's their pedophile, homosexual religion, the pagans, the European pagans. They want to go back to being homosexual pedophiles. Hercules and Hylas, or Apollo and Hyacinthus. It doesn't matter, okay? Even Achilles... Achilles is, we can talk about that another time. So back to this. Now, we're going to start with just pointing out the etymology here. So the word gymnasium, believe it or not, comes from the word gumnos. Now, it has nothing to do with penis. Not really. I mean, kind of. It has to do with naked, okay? So in ancient Greece, men exercised in the gymnasium completely naked. And most of the time, in the middle of the gymnasium, there would be a statue to the Greek god Eros, where we get the word erotic from, because it was erotic love. And this was really the hub of like homosexuality and pederasty. So it's really, so it's not like today, guys, where you're going to the gym, I'm going to go hang out with my gym bros, we're going to go work out, get changed into our gym clothes. You didn't change into your gym clothes in ancient Europe. You got completely naked, and you guys wrestled naked, and then you did stuff to each other. How does that sound, guys? You want to go back to the good old days of ancient Europe before Christianity? Do you want to do that? Want to go to the ancient European gyms? So this word gumnos, gymnasium, gym, going to the gym, it's rooted in this word being naked. But you could also use it, again, context can change things, where it's like, I was completely gumnos, I was completely naked. I didn't have my armor on, right? So the context too, you could use it in another context, right? So just, you have to be aware of the context where words are being used, like with anything, guys. Okay, so if Hillman were right, and gumnos meant penis, look at the grammar here. And he fled gumnos. So that would translate that he fled penis. Is that what happened? Think of how insane this is. So let's look at the text here and cast around. So what they're trying to say is that this little boy, this little prepubescent boy that was with why is he with a little boy? He's with a military. There's that guy's. Now, number one, he's not with Christ. He's following Christ. He's following Christ. He's the one going, what's going on? There's a bust going down. The cops are here. What's happening? And he's got a SINDON wrapped around his body. Now, they've translated as he got a little boy, even though it means military-aged man. And he's got a SINDON wrapped around his little penis because Jesus is with a little... It's like, what are you talking about, man? So then, if he had a bandage wrapped around his penis, and then the other Neaniskos, the other little boys, the captains of the guards, they're all little boys too, they then went and grabbed him by the penis, and then the guy fled penis. That is how Ammon Hillman and the pagans are translating this. That a bunch of little boys were all in the garden, the captains of the guards were all little boys, and then he grabbed them by the gumnos. Because that's where the SINDON is. The SINDON is apparently on his gumnos. And if the guards grabbed the SINDON that was on his gumnos, his penis, that means the guards didn't try to grab him like a normal police officer, like a normal guy. These were, I guess, raging homosexual Jews who just went right for the penis, and then the guy fled penis. That's the logic. Do you guys see how sick this is? Just read it. Okay, cast about his naked body. So he had a SINDON cast upon apparently his penis. Apparently had a drug-filled medicated bandage. Bucinus telemonas, words that aren't there. No mention of any pharmacon, no drugs here. I just added all that stuff in, guys. And then he had that wrapped around his epigumnos, which means his penis. No, the word penis is like peos. It's not, this just means naked. Again, gymnasium doesn't mean penis. Gymnasium means where you're naked. It's rooted in that. Okay, and then he fled from them penis. Like, all right, enough of this. You guys see how crazy this is? Again, they're just projecting their religion onto us when our religion stands in total opposition to the pagan world. That's the point of Christianity. Do you know? And so now we're going to look at an example here. So let's look at this. And John was thirsty, so he picked up the glass. It's a very straightforward sentence. Let's just do an example of what these guys are doing. So John was thirsty, so he picked up the glass. So the Hillman logic is this. Okay, the so-called bad scholarship. It's just bad scholars. They're not familiar with the Greek guys. Sorry, I shouldn't be making fun of them. It's just so bad. You know, and again, it's the Peter Joseph effect. You can lie, but it's coming back for you. And in the end, you're just going to be remembered as a liar. Your words are recorded. We have your words. We have the fact. We have the evidence. We've looked into what you're saying. And nothing you said is true. You're just a liar. And that's it. And that's what I'm going to hope to show you guys. So the scholars, so this is the Hillman logic. This is how he's doing stuff. So the scholar searches for the word glass because we got, John was thirsty, so he picked up the glass. Well, what's a glass? So he looks up this word in a different library and they find a chemistry laboratory manual. Interesting. In the manual, it says, use the glass to hold the sulfuric acid. So the scholar concludes, in technical context, glass refers to a container for toxic chemicals. So the rewrite, adding the words. So now the scholar goes back to the novel, fixes the translation by adding the words found in the chemistry manual. Well, because in this context, it was the glass was used to hold chemicals. Therefore, when John was thirsty, so he picked up the glass, we're going to retranslate it. So it says, John was thirsty, so he picked up the acid-filled beaker. It would be like saying that it's not Navy SEALs in Afghanistan, it's the SEALs at SeaWorld that are in Afghanistan. Because SEALs are known for being in the deserts of Afghanistan, in the hills and mountains of Afghanistan. That's the SEALs we're talking about. We're not talking about military Navy SEALs who are trained to fight in the mountains of Afghanistan. We're talking about animals at SeaWorld, mammals at SeaWorld. So this is the game they're playing, okay? All right, so let's look at the word SINDON. So this is the Strong's Concordance definition, and it's the 1600s. This is like how the men in the 1600s use this word, and it's only used actually 9 times in 8 different verses, I think, throughout the entire Bible, the entire Greek Old and New Testament. Okay, and it generally means the cloth or the garment of it. Okay, so it's fine linen. Okay. Linen. And here's an example from the book of Judges with Samson. So Samson here is posing a riddle to the Philistines. And the Philistines who are the Philistines? They were Mycenaean Greeks who settled on the coast of Palestine. So again, the Bible is preserving very accurate history, Bronze Age history, that a lot of this has been lost to us, okay? And it goes to say, so Samson now is posing a riddle to Philistines, okay? And he goes to say, and if you should not be able to report the solution of the riddle to me, then you shall give to me yourselves 30 pieces of fine linen and 30 robes of cloth, or of clothes. And they said unto him, propound your riddle, and we shall hear it. Okay, so now Samson's going to completely bamboozle and trick these guys, and they're going to get really pissed at him. So, In this riddle, Samson uses SINDON as a unit of currency by listing 30 pieces of fine linen separately from 30 pieces of cloth. Okay. The text proves that SINDON is not a generic term for clothing. It refers to a specific high-value commodity, likely rectangular linen sheets or undergarments, that held value independent of tailor outer robes. Here, linen is used to pay gambling debts. It has nothing to do with bandages. Bandages is just a material. It's that simple. We don't know exactly. It's just fine linen that could then probably be turned into anything. Okay? So now we're going to look at Aeschylus. And Aeschylus is saying, let fine linen, SINDON, be cast over his body. So Aeschylus provides the foundational definition of SINDON as a specific type of fabric, okay, linen. By using the adjective leptos, fine, he describes a delicate, lightweight cloth specifically designed to be draped or wrapped around the body. This establishes that the word primarily refers to the textile material itself rather than a specific shape of clothing. That's it. No one in this story is thinking medicated bandage wrapped around a guy's penis. Okay, that's it. Sources are posted. The priestly turban. So Josephus in Jewish Antiquities. So this is then enveloped by a muslin veil descending from above the forehead. So he's talking about a piece of linen. Okay, muslin. The different. It's actually muslin here. This veil is of muslin. Muslin is also SINDON. And I think SINDON is actually, a word from India. It comes from the the Indus River. And then muslin is, fabric from Mosul, Iraq. So one is Mesopotamian linen, one is Indian. And I think that's the difference between muslin and SINDON, is one's Iraqi, Mesopotamian, the other one is actually from India. I think that's where the etymology of these words lie. So Josephus uses SINDON to describe a specific part of the Jewish high priest's headgear. In this context, it refers to a fine layer of linen fabric wound around the head, a turban or veil. This proves that SINDON is a material that can be sewn and shaped into formal religious vestments, not just shapeless sheets. Okay, sources again. You guys can go read Josephus yourself. So now we've got the spy curtain, Procopius. So Procopius is a later writer, writing in the time, I think, of Justinian, 600s AD, so like 5th century, it was 500, sorry, maybe 500s? 6th century, I think, yeah, Justinian. So placed in a room where a thick curtain, SINDON, has been hung to conceal the couch. So what's happening in this story is, I think it's Germanus. They are gonna hide a man behind a thick curtain, okay? And the point of this is to hide the guy behind something, because he's gonna be used to spy and to listen in to a conversation. So Procopius uses SINDON to describe a heavy household furnishing, a room divider. He explicitly adds the adjective pakeia, thick, to the word SINDON, proving that the linen cloth was opaque, and dense enough to completely hide a grown man, a witness/spy, standing behind it. Okay, so here is the source, okay, and this man, Germanus, introduced into the house and placed in a room where a thick curtain had been hung to conceal the couch on which he was accustomed to dine. Okay, so in this context, it has nothing to do with hanging a giant penis bandage. It just has to do with thick SINDON. Thick linen that's being used to hide a guy so he can spy up on the room. All right, Euripides. Again, we're back to Euripides. And the canvas, the SINDON, comes close to the forestays middle. Now, what is going on in this story is you can tell by this word forestay, okay, and the SINDON, the canvas, okay, the linen, okay. So, in this dramatic text, Euripides uses SINDON to describe the sails of a ship. The The translator renders it as canvas to capture the function, but the Greek word identifies the material, heavy, strong linen cloth capable of catching the wind. This demonstrates that sindon refers to the fabric itself, whether it is worn by a man or rigged to a mast. So we know this is to do with the ship because of the context of the overall story and because of the word forestay here. Okay, so we know that the forestay is the rope that goes from the mast to the bow of a ship. Okay, so therefore we know this is talking about the sails of a ship, the linen that was used to make the giant sails. All right, so you guys can go and read Euripides yourselves, prove me wrong. The burial sheet. So let's go over the Bible, Mark 15:46. And having brought, so guys, this is the next chapter. This is the very next chapter, and the word sindon is used again, and nobody is imagining that Christ's body is there, and Joseph of Arimathea is going to wrap a medicated, drug-induced bandage around the penis of the dead Jesus. No, only Ammon Hillman and the neo-pagans rising up, only their minds go to this. So in having brought fine linen, the sindon, and having lowered him, he wrapped him in the fine sindon, and he laid him down in a tomb, which was quarried from out of rock, and he rolled a stone upon the door of the tomb. So the most damning evidence against the drug theory is found just one chapter later in the same book. Mark 15:46, Joseph of Arimathea buys a sindon to wrap the dead body of Jesus. The implication. It is a burial shroud. Joseph did not buy a medicated bandage or a drug-laced patch to wrap a corpse. He bought a large linen sheet. Since the author uses the same word sindon for the young man and for Jesus, the object is the same, a large linen cloth. Summary. Mark provides the most famous definition of sindon, the burial shroud of Christ. It describes a large, untailored length of fabric bought specifically to wrap a body. Unlike a fitted coat or tunic, the sindon takes the shape of whatever it covers, whether it's a ship's mast, a spy in a room, or a body in a tomb. That's all the word means, guys. Spoiler. Okay, so let's look at the conclusion. The secular evidence again. Let's just go over everything what we've gone through. So the ship's sail in Euripides, Phaeton, uses sindon to describe the heavy canvas sail of a ship catching the wind. The spy's curtain, Procopius, History of the Wars, uses sindon to describe a thick pakeia, room divider or curtain used to hide a spy. The body wrap, Aeschylus, defines it as fine linen, leptos, to be cast over a body, emphasizing the textile itself. The verdict. Whether it is a sail, a curtain, or a wrap, sindon is defined by what it is made of, linen. It's not the religious function. If it's a bandage, then it will say telemonis, telemosi. It'll say strips of linen. That's what a bandage is. It's in strip form. If it just says linen, it's just linen. If the context says it's for a ship, then it's for the sails. Thick linen to divide a room, it's probably a curtain. That's how you're going to translate it. It's the material. Biblical evidence. So the currency in Judges 14:13, Samson uses sindon, linen sheets, undergarment as a high-valued currency to pay a gambling debt separate from outer robes. The headgear, Josephus Antiquities uses it to describe the linen wound around a high priest's head, turban or veil. The burial shroud, Mark 15:46, describes sindon as a large, untailored sheet bought from a market to wrap a dead body. Verdict. Sindon is a commodity. It can be spent like money, wound like a turban, or used as a shroud. All right. The added word fallacy. To make his theory work, Hillman and the neo-pagans, they have to insert concepts that simply are not in the Greek text. Medicated, nowhere does the text say pharmakon, pharmakia, drug, or aleipho, anoint, salve. Sindon describes the material, the linen from India, sindon, not the chemical treatment. Penis. The text says that the sheet was epigumnos, over his naked body. It does not specify a body part. Standard Greek usage implies naked body, meaning he was wearing the sheet like a blanket or a cloak with no underwear. Okay, like a toga maybe. The theory that the SINDON was a drug-laced bandage requires ignoring the context of the narrative, the physical mechanics of the arrest, the definition of the word, and as established in other chapters of the same book. The text describes a young man sleeping, likely in a linen night sheet, who woke up, ran to follow Jesus, and lost his sheet in the fight. And again, guys, if everyone's a neo-pagan in the story, then they're all little children. The captains of the guards are little children, and when they went to grab the guy, they went right for his groin, because that's where the SINDON apparently was. And then he ran away naked. He ran away penis. Okay, so that's the story. And again, and Jesus answered and said unto them, Are you come out as against a insurrectionist, rebel, terrorist, with swords and with staves to take me? I was daily with you in the temple teaching, and you took me not, but the scriptures must be fulfilled. And they all forsook him and fled, and there followed him a certain military-aged man, a man in his prime, having a linen cloth, okay, a SINDON cast about his gumnos, his naked body, and the neoniskoi, the men of the soldiers of the Jewish guard, neoniskoi, laid hold of him, and he left the SINDON, the linen, and he fled from them gumnos, not fled from them penis, he fled from them naked. And then they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests and the elders and scribes. And again, they had no Torah violations, no laws of Moses have ever been broken in this whole story, and therefore you're a traitor to Rome. We're sending you to the Romans to be crucified, because we cannot stone you. You have not violated a single law of Moses throughout your whole life. You violated the Talmud. You violated the traditions of the elders. All right. So we're going to end there. I just need to thank everybody, all my supporters, everyone who's been donating. I'd really be lost without you guys. You guys are keeping me going. You have no idea. And unfortunately, I can't grow my channel. A lot of you guys are leaving me comments. I can't respond to your comments. I don't even see your comments. If I have to log into another device to see your comments. Your comments are not on my screen. They don't show me your comments. So there's a Telegram group. You guys can join there. Find like-minded people there. There's a Twitter. I have Twitter and Instagram and Odysee in case something happens here. But the reality is, guys, very soon I might actually need help, because I think I need to rebrand. I think I need to I don't want to walk away from this channel, because this is kind of my troll channel, but I'm never going to be able to grow because I use the name Gott mit uns, because I defend National Socialist Germany. My comment is edgy. I go after the Jews. I go after the neo-pagans. And so my channel is very suppressed. Also on Twitter, I post something and I get attacked. I can't. No one can share my comments or anything. So I'm gonna have to eventually move on and start something new. And I actually very soon might actually be asking you guys if you guys can possibly help me, so I could start a new channel and just do something completely new. So that's the way. Anyways, that's the word SINDON. Then next video, I think we're going to do spiritual nomad, and I'm just going to go over to show you how the neo-pagans argue a little bit more, and how they don't really have a belief, and I'm going to show you their tricks, how they're arguing, and how pathetic it is. It's kind of like what we're seeing with Amon Hillman, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth and just show you how biased they are, how hypocritical they are. And this is the kind of stuff I need to make a new channel and not be so aggressive. I need to not be so starting fights with people on the internet. All right, so that's the spiritual nomad. And then we're going to look at the Hellenistic world and kind of expose the neo-pagans who claim they're nationalists, but then what they're doing is they're pointing at Hellenistic Greece and the Greco-Roman world, when the Greco-Roman world would have no problem just completely wiping them out. They were not nationalists. They were for citizenship, and anyone could be a citizen. All right, so we're going to cover that. And then we're going to go over the Maccabean Revolt, where, believe it or not, the Jews were the good guys in ancient history. The Jews were the nationalists using the Bible to stop globalization, to stop the Jeffrey Epsteins, to stop the global pedophile elites, the people pushing pedophilia, the people pushing degeneracy, homosexuality, all that stuff. It was the Jews that rose up. Well, it was a civil war. There were some Jews pushing for the paganism. There were a lot of pro-Greek, pro-European Jews, and the Maccabees were like, no, we're not having any of that. You get out of our country. The Jews were the good guys, and now the tables have turned. But the Jews are smart. They got you all to want to be neo-pagans, so you might as well just all go to the LGBT parades and stuff. Like, just go be a good pagan. Then we're going to go over the scariest video. I can't wait. This is a must. We're going to go over the curses of Moses and the fall of the West, because we are at a very dangerous crossroads. And if we cannot overcome the spiritual nomads, and if we cannot give a reason why Christianity is the only way, why Christ is the only way, and why we need to return to Christianity and Christ, then I don't think we have a chance. Only God can save us from whatever's coming. It's so bad right now, guys, and the neo-pagans just want you to go back to the Greco-Roman world, which is the LGBT, it's the woke left, it's the world that we're living in right now. All right? So, we are going to end there. That was the word SINDON, and that's it, guys. So I really thank you all for watching. I thank you all for sending, for all the give, send, go, for all the support. And eventually I'll come around to doing a Q&A and interacting more with you guys once I get all these videos up. But I think I am going to have to eventually face the music, and I'm not going to stop this channel, but I'm going to have to do something else because my channels just can't grow. And either my content is absolutely atrocious and terrible, or I'm just censored and shadow banned, or it's me. It's one or the other. But something has to change because I can't grow. I can't get ahead in life. And if I'm going to continue, I need to be smart about this. All right. So again, thank you guys all for watching, and I hope you guys are well.